Well, good afternoon. Thank you, and thanks for having me today here. It's my first conference here in Savannah, and I'm really happy to be here and honored for that. Um, I'm from Valencia, Spain, so we do a lot of citrus for fresh there. So when I came here in Florida, it well, here in the US, down in Florida, it was interesting for me because there we are doing mostly fruit for processing, mostly in the central part of the state and also in the south where I'm located now. So processing is totally different. But then I learned that some growers in the Panhandle and some growers in south of Georgia, they were starting to do they were starting to do and to grow citrus for fresh. Some varieties that I was familiar with, like uh, mandarins, satsumas, navels, etc. So for me, it was really interesting, and and I'm still learning because the varieties are the same in both Valencia and here in South Georgia, but the conditions are not always the same. So there are some challenges. So we are trying to adapt to those and to see how we can work to make this useful for everybody. So this is an outline of my talk today. So I will start with some general considerations, canopy management. Then I will share with you some basics on hand pruning. uh, I will talk about how to build a tree and to keep it growing once you start to prune if you need to. It's not totally necessary in sometimes. Then I will talk a little bit about some pruning principles, and then I will show some ideas about satsumas and neighbors. What what we are doing back there in Spain and what we are starting to do in my program and things that can be done here also. So for starters, some general considerations on canopy management. Uh, and I always like to put this slide because I think that the fate of the fruit will dictate how you manage canopy of your trees. It's not the same as I just mentioned, to have a production that is going to go to processing, to just production. It's not the same to have that than to have trees that are going to produce high quality food for the fresh market that you can sell by the piece. Totally different. In the case of mass production for use production, uh, it's okay to adopt a mechanical pruning approach because the growth or the orchards are huge and you need the aid of machinery. In the case of manual, usually the rows are smaller, the trees are smaller, and you need another approach. You may consider to use manual pruning. Uh, because if you do mechanical pruning in those trees, you may lose part of the harvest, and you are not getting the quality that you may get if you do hand pruning. So this is a extreme case of topping and hedging, and you are actually producing a hedgerow of trees uh, that, of course, they control tree height and shape, but they don't they don't induce the tree to produce the most quality of the fruit. This is really good for producing uh, fruit for processing, for use, but it's not the best approach for fresh because of this. So, for instance, hedging promotes abundant lateral growth and also internal branching, and that increases canopy density. but that may affect external quality. So, for example, pigments, and we will see a couple of examples later. So this is good, as I said, for processing, and you see how the care that we take for this fruit is not the same than I mean, we don't care about the peel quality. In fresh, we need really good peel quality. Of course, internal as well. The appearance of the fruit is really good. So for hand pruning, there are several objectives that are important. First and foremost, of course, make better producing trees. We can also reduce alternate breeding by pruning and produce more compact and resistant trees. And the main reason that we are doing hand pruning again, and I will say several times during the presentation, is to improve external fruit quality, better coloration, and no field blemishes. We can also, by doing hand pruning, we can optimize production costs. We can rejuvenate trees if we do severe hand pruning when the trees are older, and we can regulate growth. So in this type of mandarin trees, Canopy tends to grow spherical. The tree enters in the production age. In general, in some cases, no. For instance, in Satsuma is not always the case, and we will talk about that. But we need to foster this trend of spherical shape in the trees because that will give us the best quality fruit. And here we have several examples of mandarins like Tango, Sugar Bell, and Early Price. And these trees, they are very vigorous. So the hand pruning has to be done with knowledge of what we are doing. But they have a really great potential to become highly producing trees if we prune as we should. As I said before, mechanical pruning is not going to allow a full producing tree because of the dense canopy. A mechanical pruning will promote mostly vegetative growth. So in these varieties, is recommended, can be done, is recommended to do hand pruning. There are some varieties, for instance, this one here. This is a sugar tree. We're still figuring out how can we hand prune this variety. This is relatively new variety, and we're still working on that to see how we can hand prune this one. But for instance, for neighbors or Satsumas, there is a lot of literature and knowledge about that. So this is the aspect of one of these trees, mandarin trees. When we do hand pruning, so you have a complete good fruit distribution. We want that because it's easier for harvesting later. Good fruit coloration and absence of field blemishes. And here is a detail that shows you that. On the left, you have a tree, fruits from a tree that were not hand pruned. So the tree is really really cloudy with leaves and branches. And because of that, when you have, for instance, wind or wind, basically, so you have patches, and you may have this kind of blemishes. If you have prune and you have an open canopy, you have light and air penetration, the fruit even colors better, and you have this absence of pigments, and the external appearance is much better. Now, hand pruning requires also a knowledge on the tree variety, not on the varieties. The morphology of the tree and the fruit typology is important, and we will cover And every branch must be treated according to this that I said. In the first picture, you have a Luciana tree. They are very vigorous, and this was never pruned. So you can see there's nothing there. Now you start building the tree at a young age, and we will talk about that in a couple of in a couple of slides. If you start building a tree at your age with your scaffold branches, etc., you end up having a tree like this Satsuma here, which is open canopy with good fruit distribution and with an abundant production. This is what. So in our next blog, I'm going to talk a little bit about some basic concepts on and what we want from those when we apply those concepts. Okay, and the first concept is that branch orientation determines the capability of producing fruit. And here I divided the tree in three different sectors. So you have vertical branches, but they are very vigorous. This is mostly vegetative growth, and and they are not going to produce much. Okay, then you have the horizontal branches or branches that are up to 45 degrees in orientation. They are the ones that are producing the most fruit and the most quality fruit. And they usually are in the middle of it. Okay, and then you have a series of weaker branches in the that they don't produce much fruit, and the fruit is lower quality, and they are more susceptible to disease because they are uh, hanging low in the tree. They can actually touch the ground or touch the weeds if you don't do the weed program that Rhonda was talking about this morning. So you don't do that, those branches will be not well positioned to produce quality fruit. And here is an example. This is a sugar bell, as I told you before. This is a sugar bell in our grove in Immokalee. And you can see how we have several vertical branches that are very vigorous, and you cannot see any fruit at all in those. You see most of the production uh, in the middle part of the tree. And another thing that is important is that the vertical vigorous branches are producing what we know as secondary canopy. That happens in a lot of citrus trees. So you have a canopy that is producing fruit, and another one that grows in the center of the tree is very vigorous and is not producing any fruit, or if it's producing fruit, it's kind of fruit that is corky and not good quality. So we need to avoid that, but that has to be done very early in the age of the trees. And here is probably an extreme example of a Satsuma young tree. You can see how the grower here, this is Valencia, how the grower here just cut the central branches. So that will allow the tree to open the canopy and have what we were talking before, more light, more aeration, and more horizontal branches producing the best fruit. Now, the second concept is that the tree will tend to replace the branches that we remove. So if we remove small branches, we will promote modest flushing, small flushing. But pruning large branches will promote massive flushing, and that we need to be careful with that. Now, pruning back a lateral branch, we will by doing that we will increase lateral branching, and we will increase our chances of here is an example from our program. You see that we prune here and there, and we are having a really nice produce more flash. And this was a lateral branch that we just pruned back a few centimeters, 20 centimeters. We'll talk more about that. Heavy pruning, you can see how heavy pruning produces a lot of new upright branches, and that has to be scout and all these small branches should be removed because they are upright. And think about the branches and the branch system in a tree like a pipe system. You have a main trunk, that is the main pipe. Then you have the lateral branches. They are the secondary pipes that end up in your fruit, in your oranges or mandarins. Anything between them, like this, will divert will divert resources from the producing branch. So we want to avoid that. And now the third concept is that outer branches with adequate light and aeration will produce the best fruit. And we are talking here about the outer. So that's something that we need to consider. And with all these three concepts, what we do is to start building our trees. And the first thing, well, if a tree comes directly from the nursery and is like this one here that has no lateral branching yet, we need to induce that lateral branching. Usually now, many nurseries don't sell these trees. They sell trees already with the lateral branches, but at some cases you have a small tree like this, and to induce lateral branching is very easy. You just cut the tip of the tree, the first 10 apical centimeters, and by doing that you promote a new flash that will be lateral, and then you remove a little bit more of this lateral branching, like 5 centimeters, and then you are building the tree like that. It's easy to do, but this here shows you better how the branches in a tree are, how we classify them. So you have 1 to 3 that they are the branches that actually are these ones. Okay? Then you have the A's, vertical branches, which are the ones that I told you before that they are diverting all the resources, is what we call the water suckers or the water sprouts. I'll show you a picture later. So we need to remove those from the bottom, and that has to be done from the very beginning. And then we have the B's and the C's. These are big branches that we can remove also because they are not going to any fruit. They are in the interior of the canopy, and because they are in the interior of the canopy, they are also intercepting light and air circulation. And then we have the lateral branches, are the ones that we may head back a little bit. So we increase the lateral branching as I showed you in a picture before. And the timing for doing this is there's no rush here. I mean, the first 2 years, the only thing that we actually need to do is to remove the water sprouts, okay, or the vigorous vertical branches. It's the first thing we need to do in the first couple of years. Now, from the third year on is when we start to do the architectural pruning, and we start to build the the fruit. And for the fourth year is when we start doing the fruit pruning, which is in this case to head back the lateral branches, and then the maintenance pruning. If there is a branch that is not producing or is sick or has some disease, you can prune those. Now, some pruning principles that are important if we want to be successful. Um, I think it should be a regular part of tree management. And also, it's important that any heavy pruning that you do, don't do it on hot weather because you may have sunburn of both branches and fruit. If you heavy prune and it's hot and sunny outside, you may have these problems. And also, pruning it has time and avoid any potential for frost or killing trees. And here that is tricky. I know we have the same problem in Spain, especially in the last years with that we don't have seasons well defined anymore. We may have a chilling in middle March and nobody was expecting that. So that happens. But this is what we know now. So pruning should not be done at a time when the resulting young flush growth that is going to come immediately will be susceptible. Okay, so the best time is after you harvest and before the tree um, wakes up again and starts back to the sun. But that sometimes okay. Now remember what I said before that heavy pruning at the wrong time can result in an excessive vegetative growth that is not going to result in fruit production. And also, of course, if we do it late and we do it during update or flowering, that will have an impact. So you may be avoiding freeze damage, but then you are pruning branches that probably bloom. Uh, in a small exploitation, in a small orchard, probably the best time, and that is something that I have experienced in my own grove in our center, probably the best time to decide which branches you need to prune is when they are bearing fruit because you see the tree is not that big. You have a picture of the tree and you see, okay, these branches are producing fruit. This not that much. Okay, when you harvest, still you remember. So you know which ones you can prune and which ones not. That's something that I've learned. Now, the heavier you prune, the longer it takes for the tree to recover and therefore crop again. So another thing that is important is do not prune until the trees get into production. Because if you do that, what the tree tries to do is to compensate with vegetative growth. So it will be producing more branches and more leaves, but not that much fruit. So once they start to bear fruit, is by year 2 to 3, then is the right moment to start. But to start with what I told you, and with this that comes now, always remove this water sprouts. You need to remove this all the time. And of course, what comes from the rootstock. Those need to be removed even in year 1. You don't need to wait until year 3 until the the tree is bearing crop. And then this is a typical annual light pruning that can be done. This is an adult fruiting tree, and you can see that what we were saying at the beginning in this variety is good to have like a spherical shape. So everything that is right there, we just cut it. So we are fostering this spherical shape that is where it's going to produce the most fruit. Now let's talk a couple of slides about Suma and Neighbor. Well, in the case of Satsuma, um, Satsuma is trees are like open canopy trees. They don't have very dense canopies. They're like hanging branches. The canopy is really open. So they get usually enough light exposure and irrigation. So that's why they produce that high quality fruit. Uh, but at the same time, they are very productive and they enter into production very early. And because of that, the trees get exhausted very easily. So, so what is known is that the best fruit is produced in branches that are 1 year old. Uh, Now, how can we achieve that? We adopt what we call a free system, which is we don't do this architectural heavy pruning at the beginning. So you can open the canopy and you have the 2 or 3 more than that. And then in the next 3 4 years, you only remove water sprouts. You don't do anything else from the soil. And you delay the pruning until the trees start producing. And once they start producing, the only thing you do is you prune the eight branches that are not productive anymore. So in this case, how you identify those? Well, because they have yellowing leaves, leaves are not bright, the wood appears darker as compared to other branches, and the flushes they are shorter than in the younger. Other thing that you can do is to prune the lower branches. So you lift the canopy a little bit, and this has to be done on a yearly basis. So it's kind of time consuming. And again, the same that I put before, just to remind. So this is what you do at the beginning, and after that, just remove the sprouts. In the case of navels, um, they are more vigorous, so they usually tend to put more vegetative than productive growth, and they produce very dense canopies. So, so in this case, secondary branches are really an issue. Uh, so we need to promote fruits inside and outside the canopy, and to do that, you need to remove internal branches, renew productive branches by the horizontal branches by heading back a little bit, and as I told you, control secondary canopy. That's the most important. And here, this is an example of mature age navel tree, and you cannot see it much because it's very dense. But this is a secondary canopy. This is a tree from Evia, Spain. That's where I was doing my PhD and was one of my trees there. So so I know that tree very well. So a little bit about, because we are talking about pruning and all of that, and you need to do that, and it's important to take care about your tools because I've seen it was a growth of early pride. A tool was not from one row to the other one, and that other one, that was the last one in the group, got tied back on the trees, and that was because there was something in one of the trees in the previous one that infected the other tree. So very important to, and it's very simple, sterilization solution of sodium hypochlorite, bleach, and clean tools if possible from 3 to 3, no more than that, or at least between rows. And very important, prune during the dry season if that can be done because then we will avoid the cuts become wet and be harboring any fungus or bacteria or any kind of disease. So for ending the presentation, just a few ideas that come from all what I said. Fruit quality starts in the grow, and we can push it by hand pruning. Uncontrolled tree growth results in yield and quality reduction and makes difficult to operate the grow. Uh, Pruning is important to prevent the trees from investing energy in misdirected growth, so producing more leaves than fruit. We don't want that. And so the emphasis should be put in promoting fruit bearing plants. And of course, I told you we need to know our trees. So we need to understand how the tree architecture is, so we know where to prune, which branches to prune. And each variety is different. We are still learning. As I told you, in sugarcane, we still don't know how to do it. We are trying. But in general, tree vigor determines how to prune or how to do the tree. And that's all I have. Thank you. No more than 10%. No more than 10%. And actually, that is when you do just the water straw. Probably it's not that. Now, the trees are really old. I'm talking, you know, 10, 12, 15 years old. You can do a rejuvenation pruning, and that can take 25 big branches. That, but that's drastic and that's more specialized. No, it's in my to-do list. Uh, yeah, not that I know. I mean, what we recommend is just to skip a little bit, as I told you, that's sensitivity. And so, and you achieve that by cutting the tree when it's small, so it starts to produce the branches like here at this height. Nothing else. Of course, some varieties that heavy producing, all those branches they are going to they are going to yeah yeah to wind down. And actually that with that comes another thing that is fruit load management. Okay, some varieties they are producing a lot of fruit. They are like grapes. I mean, and they are heavy. They can even break the branches. I've seen that, and some people they are even stuck in the branches, so they can hold all of those. But you can also do some fruit load management. So because in this case, trees get, some varieties get really exhausted. They are producing a lot this year, but then next year not. And we don't want that. We prefer to have a regular production, even though it's not that big, but you don't have this problem. Yes, you can cover. I mean, if it's a wound, yeah, you need to cover. There are products in the market to do that. Yeah, some have also fungicide uh, in it, and it's like a paint that you put, and they have some fungicide bactericides there. So yeah, 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 you need to do that. Yeah, in this case, the small prunes no, but these big ones, for instance, if you remove, I have a colleague that he was doing heavy pruning in these sugar beets, and he told me, let's remove the central trunk because it's that secondary canopy. And I mean, it was like this. It's like, that is survive. I mean, you don't want to get there, but if you do that, you need to cover. That's a problem. Yeah, yeah. And it's, at this point, it's trial and error. Probably yes, probably yes. But I'm telling you, it's trial and error. It's, it's, it's not set in stone because now the seasons are not like they were. Yeah. Uh, we used to prove, for instance, labels in Spain and February, March, and we've got a fleece that after that. We don't have it. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that's that. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, but if you are pruning and you have already the flashes and you see that they are going to produce, I would not prune those branches. I mean, yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, if that's the only time you have to do it, I would not do that. And plus that would be the lateral head up, head back. I mean, for the others, for I don't care if I have a water sprout that has like 3, 4 flowers on the top. I don't care about those. I prune that because I know it's only three fruit, and they are going to be really bad quality. And what they are doing, and that you can do it, that you can do it in summer. There is no problem with that. Yeah, for those. Yeah, but for the head back, I will be more careful.